We got a strategy that we're looking at for the remainder of 2018 and 2019. Charlotte, I just want to give you some background about where we're falling short.
Okay.
Where we're falling short in Charlotte is the affordable housing crisis that we have here.
Okay.
We've got currently there are 34,000 families on a waiting list to get into housing.
Okay.
So we're looking at years and years of these families being placed in housing. So what we're trying to do is create opportunities for children, for all children in the area. And by that, we're looking at beginning the process of starting some youth programs. So what we found is that the program that's working well right now is this program Save. Okay? So as we reach out, we're trying to bring in partners into this.
Mm-hmm.
Now, we're number one in the market. We've been number one for a long time. So nobody can put the stories out like we do. So we've got a unique opportunity. But there are some critical structural problems that the city's having.
Okay.
So what we're trying to do is bring in partners into this new strategy that we're going to launch to bring everybody in. Now the critical thing right now for us is the educational part. So in order to get it to increase access for these kids, we've got to look at education as well. So when Cedric came to us in January,
Mm-hmm.
We were talking, he brought this young man in here who I've gotten to know as well. And it was heart-wrenching to kind of see his story. So I wanted to show you this first thing that we did with Cedric and Save just as they were beginning to launch it.
Today I'm asking for some consistent help with Quest.
This raw cell phone footage chronicles one mother's reality. Tiara Benson is speaking directly to the CMPD chief, pleading for help to save her son.
Quest is a bright kid. Quest is smart and he's intelligent. He has a really big heart to help others. But Quest has shown some issues in the classroom.
The single mother says the two of them don't live in the neighborhoods where CMPD has set up its new initiative. The recent effort is pooling resources to offer programs like mentoring or help finding jobs.
The help just hasn't been there. We come from quote unquote middle class family. You know, a lot of programs are geared towards low income communities, but middle class families have issues too.
Vincent says she met Cedric Dean, a former inmate now working directly with CMPD. He helped her record this message for Chief Putney, who heard her.
I was trying to keep from being so deeply involved in it, but it's my passion. So if we're going to be the catalyst to bring all the partners together, so be it.
Vincent says she's speaking for mothers just like her and for their children.
We've talked about just having good behavior and not wanting to go to prison, and that's really all, because me, I don't want to go to prison.
He's 12. In Charlotte, Deshaun Brown, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
Yeah, so that's Quest, sorry. You know, these things are heartbreaking and these stories are common. So, you know, this television station, we're changing our focus or laser focusing a little bit better in these upcoming years. So that was kind of another one of Charlotte's wake-up calls was what's going on, what's happening, and let's get the data and let's see what we can do to fix this problem.
Mm-hmm.
So what we found was, or what the city found, what this entire task force found, was that Charlotte, the top 50 cities, Charlotte was number 50 in upward mobility. So what that means is, if I am poor, I just want you to, I want to not dumb it down, but I want to show you what this means. So my thing doesn't work. Okay, so Charlotte's down here, number 50. If I'm poor living in Charlotte, and I want to get to number 1, and I want to get to number 1, which is San Jose, and I'll tell you about that in a second. If I'm poor, the likelihood of me not being poor, if I'm a poor kid in Charlotte, if I'm poor right now, what's the likelihood that I'm going to even get out of being poor? The likelihood for a poor kid in Charlotte is 4.4%. That's how likely it is that that poor kid in this city is going to succeed. So what we look at is, let me try this one. Charlotte's unique. A lot of cities around the country, the poverty is kind of pocketed. Okay? In Charlotte, if you look at Charlotte, we've got the center city, and then we've got neighborhoods out here, we've got neighborhoods out here, neighborhoods out here, and neighborhoods out here. And then we've got this here. Charlotte, this area right here, we've called our crescent. This crescent area right here is where we have put, or where the city has put, or where it's ended up being, the crescent of poverty. So if you look at this report, and I can show you, it's 200 pages, you'll look at this report, this crescent right here, back in the 50s and 60s, we had a lot of inner city families living here. 50s and 60s, we bulldozed this area right here because we wanted the city, the inner city, to be stronger, more vibrant. So these people in the 50s and 60s moved here. So these are black families, bottom line. So this entire circle, this crescent of poverty is right here. And then there's our poor schools that are in here. Like a lot of cities across the country, you know, we've got pockets of, we still have segregation. So that's what the city, now I'm telling you, this isn't me, this is the data that's been found by this report from the city. We've got this crescent of poverty right here, and we've got these poor schools, and one of those poor schools is the one that he's working with, that Save's working with in Thomasboro. Okay, so you know, so what are some of those things that are bringing this poverty here? Segregation. Again, this isn't a word that I'm coming up with. This is fact.
Right.
Income inequality, school quality. You know, not that this is different than any other places, but school quality here in Charlotte, there is there are educational disparities in some of these schools. If you go to the South area, the schools and the computers and the rooms may look better than some of the other ones. Social capital, which is incredibly important, so that's why we're trying to bring in some of these large partners to be embedded deep with us, to give social capital, as you probably understand, to some of these families and kids who don't have any. You know, it's equal access to opportunity, and the family structure as well. Unlike some other cities, we have a large concentration of poor, displaced families in that area right there. It isn't pocketed where you can go somewhere, you can break out of this neighborhood and go to the neighborhood that's right nearby. It isn't pocketed like that. We've got this thing. We've got these prison walls around these families. So what are some of the structures that are put together? So initially you've got the individual, you've got the kid, or you've got the adult. So what are some of those ways that we can break them out of constraints? Let them realize that there's hope. Give them skills, give them the social capital that they need. Another big part is the family structure. I know that Cedric and Save are working with trying to figure out a better way to engage the families in this, because unless we have the families, we're not going to have the kid, right? The families are incredibly important. But with that, we can say, well, let's show them resources. We'll give them resources. We'll give them job resources. We'll give them all of these things. If I'm a single dad, single mom, and I've got 4 kids like one of these families we're working with, dad's going to 2 different jobs, and I want him to go from his neighborhood over to this other neighborhood that's, you know, even 4 or 5 miles away. I need to leave my family, my 4 kids, to go over here. That's a struggle. No car, what do? We put everybody in the bus to go there. So what do? Do we centralize these things in these individual neighborhoods? That's what this station is going to look into. In these neighborhoods, instead of saying, okay, we need to go over to Goodwill Industries to try to figure out how we can make this better, we do it right here. Okay. So and then the community, you know, some of these things, as we start getting a new sheriff in town, it's looking at the, you know, criminal justice programs, you know, and breaking the cycle out of what that is. You know, how can we expand that? What will the new sheriff do? What will the sheriff's department, the sheriff's office do to create better change? You know, what are we going to do? I know that Cedric and Save are working with an organization now, Workforce, or is that Workforce, Cedric?
Charlotte Works.
Charlotte Works. You know, great programs, but again, private money is critical in here. So then the system structure, there are problems that need to be addressed. We need to say, okay, there is implicit bias, there is you know, explicit bias going on in our city. You know, the housing crisis. You know, the number one thing, unless we can break out of this housing crisis, sorry, got a little bit, unless we can break out of this housing crisis, a lot of these other things aren't going to work. So CMPD started this thing, Community Empowerment Initiative, a couple of years ago, a little bit after Keith Lamont Scott was killed. And it had gas when it started. There's a good idea of what it can do. But again, the players are all, you know, it's all spread out. There's not this central thing, and that's what we need to do. We need to have this central thing, and that's what this television station is going to do. We're going to bring in those partners into it. But I want to show you the story that we did on the Community Empowerment Initiative, and we don't want to let this thing go, but it does need to be changed a little bit. It's got a good thought, and I think it can continue in a way.
Tonight, CMPD is partnering with faith leaders, community groups, and former inmates to try to get through to young people committing crimes.
New at 11, Eyewitness News reporter Deshaun Brown spoke to a man who served more than 20 years in prison. He's now part of an effort to save a child.
So I went to prison the first time when I was 16 years old.
Cedric Dean isn't shy about his story. The Charlotte native spent nearly half his life in prison. He's 45.
When I got sentenced, the judge told me that if you die and come back to life, you still got 5 years to do.
22 years later, he's home.
I had a praying mother and never gave up on me.
Dean says his work now is to help find solutions in the same community where he was a part of the problem. He's wearing that mission close to his heart. Save a child.
I was that person that the warden would work directly hand in hand with. And he would say, you know what? Dean right here, he is closest to the problem. So he is closest to the solution. And that's what Chief Putney has subscribed to.
Tonight, CMPD Chief Kurt Putney voiced his support for the initiative, but he's also included it in an existing program he announced last summer. Together, they'll work with officers, educators, professionals, and the local church. It's a chance Dean wasn't sure he'd ever have.
It's so real.
And perhaps a new ending to his story.
I'm not a psychologist, I'm a thugologist, because when it comes to thuggery, I know the cause and cure because that was me.
And along with Chief Putney, the Mayor Pro Tem and the district attorney also came to the church to show their support. The Chief Putney also put out another call for help funding these initiatives. He says they have a lot of workers right now. They need more investors. Reporting live in North Charlotte, Deshaun Brown, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
So, top in mobility, San Jose. A lot different from ours. So we're trying to use the data that's been found in San Jose, in a recent study, 2018 study, I'll tell you about that in a sec. What's the difference between San Jose and here? They have that, like we talked about, lower levels of concentrated poverty. Instead of it being in one area, that's here, there. The family structures are a little bit better. They have lower levels of single family parents. They have shorter commutes to jobs. They found a couple of things that there are some free programs that are helping kids gain confidence, arts and music, some sports programs as well, and preschool programs, because if we don't get these kids if we don't get them pre-K ready, even pre-K ready to go to kindergarten, they're already lacking, they're already behind. So the pre-K programs here in Charlotte, they cost a nickel or two, and some of these families can't do it. What companies have done in San Jose is private funding. That's how they did it. So it's kind of all there is to it. Now there was a study done in 2018. I told you a little bit about the Equality and Opportunity Project. Now Seattle is in the top 5 of upward mobility, so they're up there at the top. They still have problems. So the research reflects that even for young black children, there's still a problem in Seattle. So with that study, this one's different than most. This study is intergenerational. Instead of looking at one targeted group, this study was for several generations, just released in 2018. They still did see that there's a gap, that black children are much less likely to rise and will move downward where parents don't have the support. Even more so, which I was sharing with our group last night, if I'm a young black boy living in this neighborhood, let's just say this crescent over here, if I'm a young black male living in this crescent, and in the same neighborhood, I've got a young black girl, young white boy, we're all in the same neighborhood right here, same street, same family dynamic, same everything. Just so if this black kid's family was this and this white kid's family was this, we're living door to door, and a black girl right here, everything's the same. Still, for that young black boy, nationwide, that young black boy only has a 5% chance, 5% of breaking out of that poverty. Kind of lines up with that one. But this is nationwide. So, how do we change that trajectory for those kids? What did they found is working? What was working in Seattle? One-on-one mentoring with these young black folks. Reducing the bias, the implicit and explicit bias among whites, which is a conversation that mostly the white community needs to have, because racism isn't really a black problem, it's an other race problem. And then again, something that your company is probably familiar with is reducing disparities in the criminal justice system, because we're sending black men to prison much more often than we are white men. And then trying to get that inclusion of everybody together, which is something that the entire community needs to do. Charlotte right now has a unique opportunity because we've got our district attorney, the incoming sheriff, chief of police, the fire chief, the mayor, the city manager. All of these folks are black. So right now, we've got a unique opportunity to make change, you know? I know that Gary McFadden's got some high hopes for what we can all do together. So we're looking at, building these partnerships together, and what we're going to do is we're gonna bring all of these folks together from all of these different backgrounds and work together, because again, this television station has a unique opportunity because of who we are and what we can do. Nobody can do what we do. So we'll bring all of these partners together from justice, faith, arts, law, health, education, finance, government, all of these people who know how to make this thing work, and we're gonna do our best to make it work. If we look at the housing crisis, we've had this problem for decades. There are experts who know how we can fix this problem. It's bringing all these right people together who know how to fix it, yeah? So all of these things are pretty clear about, our pillar, our hope. It's breaking poverty, social capital, the partnerships, education to improve our kids' lives.
Today, Channel 9 teamed up with 2 local groups to help feed those in need in Uptown. WSSC staff, including anchors Erica Bryant and John Paul, joined Save Mentoring Group and Northside Baptist Church to hand out meals to about 100 people. The hot meals were donated by Channel 9, Showmars, and food from Save and Northside Baptist Church's food pantry.
So it may seem like not a lot, but for this television station to partner with these, with Save, with this Baptist church going out and feeding the homeless, for a lot of organizations, doing something might be a day-to-day thing, but for us to be able to use this partnership to broadcast to over 1 million people that we're doing this, there's no value to what we're able to do, So that's why the value of a partnership that we could potentially do with any business, with any organization, brings a lot of validity to what we can do. Education is really important to breaking this cycle of poverty. Like I'd said, we're in a state of de facto segregation here. It's just the way it is, and I know that our Charlotte Mecklenburg Schools is trying to figure out what we do. However, our hope is to work with them to figure out what we can do to show the city that isn't going to work. That segregation that's happening in some of these schools in the long run is going to hurt economic opportunity for the city, because until we get that number from 50 higher, we're still going to be looked at as a city who's not inclusive. Some of those.
So, former inmate is sharing his life experiences with local kids in hopes of breaking down barriers.
And we're taking these kids and saying, you are just
So we had a
as
summer
important
program
as these
here.
other kids.
The new program that's opening doors for a better future.
This is Channel 9 Eyewitness News, covering the Carolinas.
Right now, some local kids are coping with trauma many of us can't even imagine. But one former inmate is sharing his hardships with those kids in hopes of breaking barriers. New tonight, Eyewitness News reporter Deshaun Brown has an inside look at the Save Mentoring Program.
If you listen to the stories being shared in this circle, you'll hear challenges.
Talking back to my teachers.
But you'll also hear commitments.
I'm prepared for everything now, so you can bring anything and I'm prepared for it.
This is a look at a new mentoring program in Charlotte that's been underway for months. It's through a program called SAVE, started by former inmate Cedric Dean, who spent more than 20 years in prison.
These problems that we're hearing from these kids are real, and they're problems that if you listen to them, they'll tell you the solution to them.
Antoine Schenkel is one of those kids. At 14 years old, he and others here have experienced what most would never dream of.
Being shot at.
I was just that one kid that was always in the streets that always wanted to be and play hard. but truthfully, that's not who I really was.
For 10 weeks, the program has been focused on building character. It's also exposing them to different career paths, service, and education.
We don't go in with a curriculum that's already says one size fit all, because it's not.
Like, I just thought that they'll just be talking without giving us a chance to talk, but they gave us a chance to talk while they was talking about it too.
By the end of this, Dean says it's not just what's said that matters, but what's heard.
And we're taking these kids and saying, you are just as important as these other kids.
In Charlotte, Deshaun Brown, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
The program is also part of the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Police Department's Community Empowerment Initiative. It started about a year ago. It's focused in Charlotte's Lakewood and Hidden Valley communities.
New at noon, for almost a year, CMPD has been pushing a crime-fighting tool focused on empowering the community. A part of that effort starts with some of our area's youngest residents, trying to direct them in a more positive direction. Eyewitness News reporter Deshaun Brown is following this story and joins us live now. Deshaun.
Also this morning, there were more than a dozen young people here, really just who were a part of this program this morning from Charlotte's Lakewood and Thomasboro communities. They're actually packing up right now to go out into the community and serve food. And that's what this effort is all about. The goal is to instill positive values into young people, and from there, they can go out into the world, be productive, and make better decisions. About a year ago, CMPD launched a new program that would focus on giving people in the community the tools they need to make positive changes. This program falls under that umbrella. It's also through an initiative called SAVE. I just spoke with a few of the students who've been involved for the past 10 weeks. One young man is only 14 years old, and he told me he's already been shot at.
Like before I came in the group, I was just that one kid that was always in the streets that always wanted to be and play hard. But truthfully, that's not who I really was.
We're going to have more with these young people coming up on Eyewitness News at 6. And the effort won't stop when the program ends in the next 2 weeks. They're also partnered with local schools in this area to continue working with them throughout the school year. Reporting live in Northeast Charlotte, Deshaun Brown, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
This thing works. It does. I can sit here and, sorry, I get emotional when I see those.
Because it's real.
I can bring in a packet of data, and say what's wrong. This thing works. I mean, we know that this thing works. On a personal level. My own son is in this group. And I literally don't know what we would have done or where he would be right now without it. So I will, to my last breath in this television station, I will support what this thing is doing. I will use the power of this television station to promote the good that this organization is doing, and I'll just do it. The good thing about our new general manager who came on board in January is, you know what, I told him I'm outspoken. I'm just gonna tell it like it is. And he said, I wouldn't want us to have it any other way. We're going to do this. We're committed to change, and we're going to continue with it. Sorry about that. So, I just kind of want to give you a snapshot of what this thing is, our commitment to what they're doing, and though you saw a lot of this centered around these children, it's more than that. It's the adults and the families that surround these children, the men and women who are incarcerated, and how we extend all of that to everybody, to all people in this community. And that's what we're going to be doing for the remainder of 18 and into 19. I give you a snapshot of what we're about to produce to the community. This is fresh off the press. This is today. This is just happening today. and we're going to be moving forward on it.
Hey, my name is Richard Hill. I'm the behavior specialist here at Thomasville Academy.
Ms. Randall.
Hi, Lori Rondo. I am the math facilitator for grades 2 through 5, so I support teachers teaching math.
So, when we talk about the Thomasboro community, the students here, what is the state of the students? Because we know that the school is kind of struggling, and Securus is a company that provides technology to prisons. Technology by way of video visits, by way of tablets that have educational tools and whatnot. And one of my biggest things was that the same technology that we provide in the prisons, we need to be providing in the schools. So that's kind of the context of why I wanted to come and sit down and talk to y'all, and I asked Ashley and Don to be here. So if you can kind of speak to, you know, specifically some of the situations with the kids that we deal with, that would provide a context of them not having internet, so that the need would be greater.
Okay.
Okay, I can speak to that. So we're a K-8 school, so we service students from ages 5 to 13, 14 years old. And the difference with education from the way it was 10, 20 years ago to the way it is now is most of the things that we do are technology driven. So our assignments are on technology through Google Classroom or Mastery Connect or SchoolNet, which are some of the platforms we use, including our math program, which is Envisions, and a lot of the tools are online. For us, it's fine in school because we have the resources in school to give them the support that they need with technology. But once they leave school to go home, they don't have textbooks because it's all computer driven. So they don't have the textbooks to take home like we had many moons ago. So in order for parents to support them and help them at home, if they don't have that information or are not able to log in and look at what has been taught, they can't provide that ongoing support that students need to practice their learned materials. So it would be a benefit for us to have some more technology outside of the school. Also, one of the things that if you come up to our school, especially in the summer or on the weekends, after school hours, you can see any group of students hanging out on the perimeter of the building because 1, we have electrical outlets, and 2, we have internet access. So the internet does reach our mobile units, so they're able to access the guest Wi-Fi that we have available through CMS. So they do actually come to do it. A lot of times it's for social media, but if we gave them the access for them to actually do schoolwork, it would support our needs to grow our students academically. Right now, we did have 85% student growth this past school year, but it's still not where they need to be in terms of being proficient at grade level. So if you look at our overall proficiency grade level, it's between 25, and I shouldn't know the exact number, but between 25 and 30% of our students are proficient. That means 70% of our students are not, which obviously we want that number to grow or the number to decrease and our proficiency to increase for our students.
So technology in essence would be a supplement to the teacher. It would be something that would help assist the teachers because of the problem that you're having with a lot of the kids not having them textbooks to take home.
Right.
Absolutely.
And if they don't have access to the technology in the home to where they can use the internet and whatnot, then they're just left out.
Right.
So that explains why there's a great divide
The digital divide, we hear about it all the time.
Right, because in the schools where the students live in communities that have the internet and the parents can go on the internet with them, they're at a greater advantage.
They are.
So that's what I'm hearing you say.
And we hear that from our students. Students say that at other schools that they came from, the other schools have all the technologies that they need, and they know that. And so we come here and we hear some of the parents say, we can't afford to give our students the technology they need. And so, first of all, let me say thank you to SAVE, because they have been extremely helpful in anything that we want, from tutoring to trying to assist in any kind of way. They've been, all we got to do is ask, and they've been on board with it. So I think it'd be beneficial to have that technology piece to our school.
Right.
So, you know, a lot of times, and I just wanted to applaud y'all, because we had a family that had 8 kids. And when I say the school was burning my phone up, burning the phone up, saying, what do the kids need? What can we do? I mean, it was not a day. And then we came up here and I told them they need milk. Came right up to the school, they put it right in my car, and they gave me the stuff. And this is coming out of pocket. And one of the things that never really get talked about is the fact that teachers, when they seeing these students come to school and they don't have basic needs, or they're hungry and stuff like that, they're going out of pocket. And in doing this, when, you know, they may have to sacrifice going out. I'm not going to go out this weekend. That little $30, $40 I would have put towards that, I'm going to give this to this kid and buy these things at the dollar store.
And we hear it all the time.
So, you know, what, in terms of, like, if you had a wish list of things to kind of balance this digital divide, like, what would that look like?
Oh, wow.
That's a loaded question.
That is a loaded question, because there's a lot of things that our kids need, because as you mentioned, our kids can be anything from food, clothing, and shelter. Those are 3 of the basic needs that we know all of our students need. And right now we have a very large McKinney-Vento population here at our school, which means that they're homeless. So we have students that are dealing with homelessness, just coming to school, not knowing where they're going to go after school to go lay their heads. But in terms of technology and having the resources for them, because they want to do well, they want to do their work, but a lot of times you'll hear, I don't have the resources, I don't have the tools to do this assignment or that assignment, because we have limited copies. We have, like I said, we don't use textbooks. That's just not a part of the resources that we have. They have workbooks, so don't get me wrong, we have certain things, but with them not having those resources at home, to kind of close that gap, the technology piece would be great, helpful, because a lot of times they have the smartphones, and you'll even, you know, a lot of people say, well, kids come to school with phones. Well, yeah, they get hand-me-down phones, lost phones, stolen phones, wherever they get the phones from, but most of the times they don't work outside of school, because when they come to school, they can access, again, technology or the internet, but when they leave or they leave the school grounds, they no longer have that access. So even though you may see a student with a phone, 9 times out of 10, it's not hooked up via Verizon, Sprint, or the other providers, but they're actually using it in public places where they can access it. So if they had access to the internet at their own homes where they can work safely and get the resources to do actual schoolwork, many of our students would rise to that occasion. So
now I know some of the kids that we work with, as well as some of the other kids have incarcerated parents. And Securus has been committed, their mission is to connect these parents with their children, so that they can have constant communication, they can parent from prison and be relevant. And I think, and that was one of the things that I had been talking to Don about, how we could really formalize something where there are partnerships with the school to make sure that the parents, through technology, through digital devices could stay in touch with, you know, the kids to be that support system, because we talked about it in the class, the statistics to say how many kids who have parents will end up incarcerated. So, and we have our struggles with our kids because a lot of them are dealing with stuff at home from adverse childhood experiences. And when they come to school, it's a displaced aggression.
It is.
Because they're not really mad at the teacher. They're not really mad at the child that do something wrong. They really mad at the man at home maybe beating up their mother. And they seeing this every day or touching them in the wrong places and stuff. And we get a lot of that. So it's important that we kind of, you know, be able to have that type of thing. You know what I'm saying? So
I know so often, particularly when we meet with the SAVE group, the students they say all the time, I haven't seen my father in so many years. I haven't had an opportunity to talk to my father, and we ask why. Well, my father's maybe in California or, you know, wherever he is, and they not have an opportunity to speak to their father. And so that, I think that'd be very beneficial for us to have that type of piece where they can connect with their parents.
Yeah. And just to add to that, you know, we know that North Carolina right now, as a state, 44 people move into North Carolina every single day. So that has a big impact on CMS schools because we are one of the largest cities in the state, and a lot of people do migrate to our city. So they have family in other states and other communities. And then you also mentioned incarcerated parents. I will never forget, last year we had a student, she told me her birthday was the next day, and I went to the store and bought her a little birthday gift, and we had an activity after school, and she kept running in and out. We were in the media center, kept running in and out of the media center, and then she finally came back in, upset, bawling. So we finished, it was a books fair. We finished what we needed to do there, and then got to talk to the student. Why are you so upset? What's going on? Why were you running out? She was waiting for her father to call. He was in prison, and she shared, you know, some intimate details about her relationship with her father. But it is a disconnect. She's an 8th grade student who's, you know, adolescent, and those are kids who need their parents most. And, you know, of course, she's dealing with the fact that her father has made a lot of empty promises over the years about getting himself together. But she's also shared that her dad has never been there for her birthdays because he always is in prison. So she was able to take a phone call from him, but it was 5 minutes, you know, it's a limited amount of time. And he does not always have access because he is incarcerated. So again, there are 2 reasons why, again, it will benefit us. With the influx of families to the area, we have a lot of students who come with family members, including their parents who may stay behind while they're here with relatives, and then our families that are separated because of prison. So 5 through 8, our 3rd and 4th grade classrooms each have a set in their classrooms. So, and then K2, they don't necessarily have a set of Chromebooks, but they'll have some Chromebooks, desktops, and iPads. And usually those are supplemented through Donors Choose.
Okay.
And so Donors Choose teachers can write private grants that are privately funded by whomever to choose to pay for those items. But we are one-to-one for our middle grades. So they have access in-house, but they don't go outside of the school.
I see.
Yeah.
Why
so.
is that? Why? Because to me, like, even when I was doing homework, I would use the textbook to do my workbooks or
right,
you know,
to
whatever.
refer back
that
to.
Just seems super weird that they're not allowed to use the textbooks other than in school.
Well, it's not that we don't have physical textbooks. They have their resource or their supplemental workbooks that they get.
Right, but they don't have the.
But they don't have a hardcover
that
textbook
we're accustomed to.
that we're accustomed to.
Right.
And that has just been phased out over time. And I'm sure it varies by district to district, state to state, and even subject to subject as well. But like I know our science books adoption is old, and I can't tell you how old, but it's very old, almost outdated with some of the curriculum that we actually have to teach. Math, like I said, when they transferred over to the Common Core and did the textbook adoption. Like I said, we just got one last year for CMS, but prior to that, there was a time there wasn't a textbook adoption, which meant here are your standards that the teacher has to teach. Now the teacher has to supplement these standards with resources that are provided by math coaches like myself. We have our math department that gives us a lot of information, but what we use several different platforms, but they're all on computer. We have Dreambox that provides remediation for our students. We have IXL in some of the schools within the district. We have Canvas. We use a Google Classroom, but all of those things are driven by technology.
Right.
So without technology, it doesn't go outside of the school, except for those families who do have access. But that's not 100% of our students.
Right.
So you have the have and the have not. So if you have it, you're good. And even some of our families might have limited internet, but they don't have an actual computer or actual Chromebook to actually do the work. They may only have a cell phone. So that also changes some of the dynamics of what and how they can do their work as well.
Yeah.
So interesting.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Strange, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very strange.
We say it all the time. We're
It's
from up
different.
north, and it's a lot different here in North Carolina as opposed to being in D.C. and from
Right, I'm from
Cleveland.
Ohio, so and I know we weren't we did not have technology 101. So and the good thing, the good thing is here in Charlotte, every student in a classroom has access to technology. That wasn't necessarily the case from the school district I came from, but every kid had a textbook. So
Yeah.
it's a give and take.
Right.
But a textbook you can
So-
take back and forth, but
Right.
a Chromebook, the
Yeah.
Chromebooks we don't assign to students to take outside of school. And I want to say, when I first came here, they may have been able to take them, but because they get lost, stolen, or damaged, where are the funds going to come to replace them? So they are, just
Yeah.
for school use.
That I don't understand how you're supposed to succeed academically if you don't have access to some of these.
Those are the
platforms.
challenges of a school.
And we-
That
like
just-
ours.
Well, that's why the performance level is what it is.
Exactly.
That's why that's what we trying. That's why we got you here.
So do you guys think that the technology, introducing more technology into the classroom is more beneficial, or?
It has its pros and cons, obviously. When it's focused instruction, when it's monitored instruction, it definitely has a great benefit. But that comes with a strong teacher who knows what and how to use the technology. But then also, right now, we are blessed to have a program here that is providing training to our parents. And at the end of their 6-week training, then they'll get a computer and I believe access to internet services at their home for a designated amount of time. So we know it's a need because we have other parents who are asking how can they participate,
Sure.
but we only have limited
amount, yeah.
resources for those families. So, and those families, again, they're being taught how to use it and before they actually get the computer to take home. So it's not just here you go, but here's how you can use this to benefit your children as well as themselves. Because we also know you can no longer just go to McDonald's and apply for a job. Most applications are online.
Yeah.
So if you don't have access to technology as an unemployed person, then there's no way for you to even get that job so you can take care of yourself and your family.
Right.
So it's twofold that it works and to have technology in the household.
And we found ourselves doing that last year and a couple of years, having parents come into the school system so they can apply for jobs or do some of the
Right.
things they want to do online.
Right.
And we provide that service for them here in the school.
Even for our families to volunteer, they have to go online and register. So, like when we were kids, your parent wants to come volunteer in the classroom, they come in the office, sign in, and go to the class. But now they have to sign in, get the background check before they can do any of that. But again, it has to be online. So, and then when we, one of the things that they require us to do is have a proctor for our high-stakes test, the EOG at the end of the year. We have to beg, borrow, and plead for people to come in and volunteer to proctor those tests, but they have to be registered volunteers. So again, we find ourselves up against the wall because we have parents that think that, oh yeah, I'm going to come volunteer. They show up, but they hadn't done that piece where they had to register online. Right. So it hinders a lot of things, but it also helps a lot of things because, you know, you can monitor who's coming and going. Even now, every parent has to register when they come into the building. You had to register today. So everything is technology driven. So it is a need for our parents to have access and then to know how to use it.
Now, could y'all speak, because I forgot about this, to the need of, like, when we come with our program, we can't really take these kids away from learning. So it's important that resources and, like, our partnership develop something outside the school by way of after-school programs and stuff of that nature, so that we're not taking these kids out of school from the academic component to address the character components. Because when it comes to, we have a lot of behavior problems. So when it comes to those behavior problems, when we're here, you know, our program, we're here, but we're taking them, the time that they're spending with us at school, it should be time that they should be in the classroom. So it's important to maintain that balance by us having, what we did was we took the kids to Northside and we worked with them during the summer and whatnot. And when they went back to school, we were still coming to the school and getting them and doing stuff like that. Well, it worked out well because, one, you know, now there's a decrease in, you know, some of the behavior problems that they was having. So I really didn't understand it at first, but now I see how good it is. So that's one of the key things that we gotta work towards, is being able to have the resources to do stuff outside the school. Because the school can only really address the academic aspect, but when it comes to the behavioral problems and things of that nature, you know, we have to have programs like ours to address it outside of that. And Mr. Hill, you probably can speak to that.
So we find that the SAVE program has been very beneficial. We noticed that the amount of referrals that the students that were receiving when they first came to the program, they were going through the roof. This year, we can say that we've only had 1 or 2 students who had referrals. We have about 27 students in that program, so we see that drop off because of the involvement with the SAVE program. And the kids, they're more apt to do what's right. They're excited about being a part of the program, about what they're doing on the weekends. They come on Monday mornings, they run into our office talking about what the SAVE program did this weekend or what we participated in. And so I think it's been beneficial all the way around to have those SAVE in these students' life. And one of the things I like about SAVE is it's not just a program just for just to save face to come here on during the Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday. They're doing something. Those students, they can call them anytime on the weekends or anytime, and the SAVE program usually respond.
What grade is SAVE?
So I think we're doing now 6, 7. He's doing 6, 7, 8th grade now. Yeah.
Well, you know, I just want to thank y'all for y'all time and giving us the opportunity to, because at the end of the day, those that are closest to the problem are closest to the solution.
Yeah.
So, and oftentimes the lawmakers, the people that's allocating the money for the budget, they don't come down here and talk to the people on the front lines.
Yeah.
So we're having to go to the private sector and say, okay, we know y'all have a corporate social responsibility. Y'all really do care about the community. Here's how you can best, you know, benefit what we're doing. So, thank you.
That it's like he's got something, like he's got that.
He has it.
He's a natural born leader. People are drawn to him. You called him a magnet. I mean, that's what he is, and we just had that dream, and I guess a connection for the last probably 8 or 10 years is when we first met, and at that time seemed very hopeless. You know, I was trying to help him from inside prison, anything I could do on the outside for him, but man, when he got that word that he was getting out, it was on.
Right.
It was on quick.
He's like, I got my plan.
He did more than 6 weeks, literally, than I've seen people in ministry do in 6 years.
I believe it.
So, anyway, I mean, I could talk about him and my love for him all day, but that's really not what we're here for, you know, a little bit, but I wanted to hear a little bit from you, just from the standpoint of what you hope to gain from this type of program, and I've talked to her a little bit to get a better idea. I just got here a few minutes early, Cedric, so we were just talking, and find out that the program was here at this facility. I didn't realize that. And then I'll just give you a little quick introduction of our company and what we do.
Okay.
And I don't want to dwell on that too long, but I want you to get a flavor of who we are and what we have the capabilities to do. So.
Okay, no problem. Well, I don't know what my expectation is in terms of the program, because I'm not sure that I fully realize what.
Exodus.
Oh, you're talking about the reentry platform. Okay, so that's the technology itself. So I guess kind of step back a little bit. I'll share. I know you said you looked up a little bit about our organization, but Veronica, I can also share with you just kind of my story. So from a personal perspective, I have a family background where I've had multiple family members and friends who have been incarcerated. So from a correction standpoint, it was something that was actually very normal to me. It was part of what happened in the neighborhood, so I didn't really see it as a big thing, in my younger days. I also have several family members who are in law enforcement and corrections, so on the CO and then police officer side, and so I have that kind of perspective as well, knowing the challenges and things that they would talk about from their experiences of just policing and or being a CO. And then, of course, I'm a PK. So my mom's a minister, my dad's a pastor as well. So I have this plethora of mix of background where it's all these different facets of experiences that really, I think, is uniquely positioned me to be able to speak to or understand the challenges that are faced from nonprofits as well as correctional facilities, and then, of course, the individual who's going through those experiences. I've been with Securus Technologies for, it'll be 11 years in December. I'm an accountant by trade, so I've kind of moved around into multiple roles, but ultimately at the end of 2016, I approached the organization and said, hey, I want us to get more engaged and involved from the family members' perspective. Just because I felt like there was a need there that we could fulfill with the technology, what I know is possible with the technology we already have in place. So fast forward, they approved that. I created the Securus Foundation, and one of the key things I like to make this distinction, because it's a very big deal to me, and that is, we are a separate organization. We're a nonprofit. We're a 501c3. The benefit or the value to me is that they allowed me to use their brand name, because I could have called it the Dawn Freeman Foundation, and it's like, okay, well, who is that? There's nothing significant about that, but being associated with such a large organization that does have a huge footprint across the United States in the correctional space, and given that my mission is corrections and or reentry focus and reducing recidivism, it just was like a no-brainer. So extremely blessed and fortunate to have that opportunity. So where the kind of business model for the foundation just in and of itself is not just technology in general, but also to be able to create and bring new technology that we can facilitate both inside and outside, that helps family members, friends, community partners, and agencies all stay connected, service providers. Because that's, as I travel the U.S., there's definitely a huge gap with sharing information. Agencies don't like to give it to nonprofits. Nonprofits need it, or they don't want to share stuff amongst each other. It gets really, right. And at the end of the day, we all say we want to help, returning citizen Dawn Freeman, but nobody wants to share what's going on with Dawn Freeman. And so if there's technology that can help facilitate that and take some of that competitive nature and the security concerns that come with sharing positive information, so you're not asking, even though you can go online and see somebody's entire criminal history, even though you're not asking for that, per se, you can share information if the ultimate goal is to get them better programming, make sure that they are accountable, they have an accountability partner, etc. That's something that we are doing, we are developing with the reentry platform, and that's exactly what it is. So the Exodus reentry platform is basically a collaborative case management tool, is our ultimate goal, with additional functionality being providing a resource or service provider listing. So some of the things I saw and said, you could probably speak to this, I don't know if they did this on the BOP side, but most agencies will run around whatever their county or state is and collect a list of, these are all the service providers and community partners, right? And they print it up and they give you this batch of papers. It's like, okay, go forth. You've now been empowered to find resources. Right. Well, first of all, we all know that's what a stack is, depending on, especially if you've been in there for a while, that's in a stack of a million other sheets of paper that's in some garbage bag they're giving you, right? And where does that go when you get out? In a closet, in a trunk, wherever, because especially if you're having challenges with where you're going to stay, and exactly. So nobody, and then the minute you print that, it's outdated. It's bad information. Something's changed. And if I'm looking for, I have a very specific need, me scrubbing through 300 pages of resources to find the food pantry closest to me isn't realistic via that type of approach. And so that's one of the things that our platform is, an online portal. It's more robust than just doing a 211.org, so they have some instances of that. It's really more, instead of just giving you the list, it's the case management piece, it's the referral piece where you can favorite certain locations where it takes into account, your location. You can say, okay, find the resources closest to me. And it's looking at that geographical type, it's a geofence, like using a geofencing component to help identify, okay, within this 2-mile radius, 3-mile radius, whatever you ask for, these are the resources based on your request that could help you. So anyway, that's
So
ultimately, it's a web-based application.
Yeah.
So it's live now?
It's not live yet, but we are doing, and again, I know this is I talk to Sid about this all the time, that I'm very fortunate because as with most things, reentry, if you're starting something new, everybody's, well, where's the evidence? Where have you done it before? Well, it's new. It doesn't exist. So, of course, that's not going to be there.
That's what we're always doing.
Right. It's brutal. But again, I think just given the dynamic, because I'm associated with, or our organization is associated with a large technology provider in this space, I can overcome those hurdles of the security nature. And then the other thing is, we just got awarded our first contract, which is really going to be a beta site for us. But they're going to pay us to do that work in their county, which again, it's not millions of billions of dollars because we're not looking for that. That's not why we're doing it. But I think it really is a testament to the plan that, was mapped out, and stick it to the plan, because people are already responding very positively. And we've already gotten a contract, and we haven't even finished out all the development yet. And
well, I can tell you just, I work with a lady, and she is in this space of trying to help reduce recidivism.
Mm-hmm. You got it.
And so I helped her look for a few grants and did some things, and then we had to compile all those resources of this and that and blah, 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 because her goal is to have a house, because when women get out, there's no housing, and within her housing, she has programming to help them. Exactly. Okay, what do you need to learn? It's a computer skill, whatever, to get her prepared, instead of
to stand on her own.
To stand on her own, and then she just, matriculates and moves on, and then that house. And so I was, helping her try to, get the funding for the home. And then, like you said, the battle is getting this information and getting people to share and play nice in the sand for the same woman.
Right.
It's amazing. So this is so exciting. That's why I was like, is it ready? Because I'm thinking, okay, we need it here in Mecklenburg County already.
Right. Yeah, I've already been talking to Gary McFadden and said about it. Definitely something that, and that's the other thing is, this tool is not specific, like our target is the whole U.S.
Right.
for a very specific population, in a very specific goal and purpose. But the other reality of it is once we compile that information, service providers can provide those services to people who are just struggling. You may not have been incarcerated. You may just be having a hard time, and you don't want to become incarcerated by having to do what you have to do, etc. So, or if you're a new student, if you're in college, and of course funds are really low when you're in school, and you just need help. This is something that can be leveraged in all these different kind of use cases that we're extremely excited about. And you never know. I have some people who have spoken this over me already. I'm not quite there yet, but I'll accept it. That this can even be international.
Now, the call for service was at the 342 at a certain address. Someone matching the description, and she said that this person just looked inside of the window. Okay? So you driving in the neighborhood.
Well, as soon as he spotted y'all, he started walking away.
Okay, what else?
Don't go to the thing because I want to see if I remember. You went to it. I remember something else.
Excuse me.
He had a hat on? Did he have a hat on?
Okay. So what I try to illustrate here is with officers is the fact that, with citizens, is the fact that we as officers, we don't have a second take at it.
Right.
So we have to get it right the first time.
Right.
So even in this call for service, we have someone that matched that description, but we can't just cue it on that person. Because again, if we have to make a decision, use of force, if the person runs, or if they fight, anything like that, or we don't make a decision, we are responsible for everything that we do or don't do.
Right.
So for us, best case scenario is to look around that as well. And that's when you hear the totality of circumstance.
Right.
Because sometimes it's the picture, creating that story,
right,
not just what's in front of us.
So it's less about the fact, and it's the way it's being positioned.
Exactly.
So how they explain it to you make it seem like it's suspicious, but there may not have been what was actually going on.
Because a lot of times what we see as civilians, even myself when I'm off duty or even on duty, but I'm going to say civilians in this case, we see a very short snippet of the incident, right?
Right.
And usually is what media, social media want us to focus on. But I try to tell people, it doesn't mean it's right or it's wrong.
Right.
What it means is that there was a story that led up to that. And that's where we have to do our due diligence to try to find that story out before we say, that officer beat him up for no reason. Not saying the officer was wrong, because sometimes we are wrong.
Right.
But we have to do ourselves a service by trying to figure that out too.
Right.
And instead of allowing others to give us that narration.
Right.
So in this case, what would y'all do? Would you drive by and do nothing? Would you monitor him but allow him to leave? Would you get out the car and make an inquiry? Or would you check his backpack? Or just say, forget it all, I'm just going to arrest him? See? See? What would you do, sir? See? All right, tell me why.
Well, first of all, I wouldn't make a decision.
I wouldn't
make a decision to try to lock him up because I don't know.
Okay.
If he did what the accusations were, but I'm there to assist the call. So I will approach him and just make the inquiry, what's going on.
Okay. You ladies feel the same way?
Yeah.
So I would do it just because, unless I just totally missed it, which is possible, but it was two people out there. He wasn't the only person walking, so I would just talk to them about it, and even correlation, because there's a lot of missing information with that little snippet we just saw, but I don't know how close that is to the house that was involved. I mean, it's a lot of unknowns, so I can at least inquire, and then, based on what was said and the rest of the dynamics, then make an informed decision of how to act.
Exactly, and in fact, from A through E, all of that can occur on that one call for service.
Right, true.
Right? Because we don't operate in absolute.
Right.
Right? There are always changing variables, whether, you know, it fluctuates up and down, left and right. Just because of what's in front of us doesn't mean it's going to stay there.
Right.
Right? Because the guy can run, the guy could say, you know, F you, I don't want to talk to you. I could just drive by, and next you know, there's an incident that happened right in front of me. So there's changing variables. So what we have to do is make the best decision based upon the facts and circumstances before us. That's why it's important to paint that picture. Make sense? So what's called the Charlotte Community and Crime Issues. And this, I'm just giving you guys a snippet of this entire workshop. So with the crime issues, have you ever heard of the crescent and wedge?
The what?
Crescent and wedge theory?
No.
Okay. So crescent and wedge, there are several different profiles that we picked for this type of theory. Because a lot of times when people call us, police, many of those calls for service are not police related calls, right? Because we have to understand that when people call us, they are in some type of crisis, 911, right? And we have to show up and try to do the best we can to remedy that.
Right.
Now with that, it doesn't mean it's a 911 call, but we still have to provide some type of resource towards it.
Right.
And many times when we can't provide it, they hate the police.
Right.
Because we didn't fix their problems, right?
Right.
So when people see the badge, they see government. It's not always the police. We're just a representation of the government that can't help them. So many times it's not enforcement, but there's social issues that we're addressing.
Right.
So the crescent and wedge is to help educate not only participants, but those stakeholders to realize that it's not just on us, you play a part in this as well. So here, we got this from what's called the Charlotte Quality of Life Explorer, and we picked 4 different profiles. This one in the middle here, okay, in the middle, and my pointer didn't work.
That's why I go over there. I don't know where it went.
Yeah, it
from
didn't
here.
go on the screen. Let's
Yeah.
see. Let's see if the backup works. No, it didn't go on the
It
screen.
doesn't work on it.
So right in the middle, and let me just point this out, excuse me, boss. Right here.
Okay.
That's our downtown area, okay? So where you see the shaded, the profile is our highest violent crime area in 2016, okay? That's where most of our highest violent crimes occurred. So now we're going to talk about our lowest household income. And when we begin to overlay that, look what happens. So now we're talking about lowest test grade, end of grade testing, those scores. Look what happens. You start to see that crescent form, and you see that area right towards the bottom of that is just white. All right, we're gonna make note of that. This is our highest teen pregnancy. And last, our highest black population in the city. So the education here is that in the right in between the bottom half of that white, that's where our served communities are, where the money is in the city. And the areas north of that is where our underserved population resides.
Down here be South Charlotte.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Right there, if you see how it's like this, like a triangle,
Yeah.
it's right that white right there.
This.
Yep, exactly. That's the wedge. So what I try to tell, those folks when I'm in front of them is that the crime that occurs in your neighborhood because you have the money and someone come in, break into your car or break into your home, majority of those people, 1% of the population cause 99% of the problems. 99% of the population cause 1% of the problems. But in those 99%, they are not all criminals. Many of them cause those problems because they're surviving. So that's why I try to get them to understand that, yes, it's not right that they break into your homes or your cars, But you also have to understand that because it's not in your neighborhood doesn't mean you're not affected.
Right.
So because of that, we talk about the social issues and what we all can do. And you see where we're located in the South, right? And that's far as upward mobility success. When y'all see that dark red, burgundy, however you want to shade it, color, what do y'all see? What's that an indication of?
We talked about this in the car. Yeah. So, least likely.
Least likely. So, historically, the South was known for what?
Right,
Slavery, Jim Crow, all those things. And today, we're still affected by it.
Yeah.
Right? Still affected by it. So, Charlotte was ranked.
Opportunities, etc.
Exactly. So, our community, when they did a study as far as upward mobility success, we were ranked 50 out of 50. So, that was a complete embarrassment for us, right? So, with that, they did a study. Opportunity Task Force said, you know what? We're embarrassed by it. We need to do something. So 20 people from the city, our stake and shareholders, got together, and they did. And you can Google that. It's a PDF online for that. And they said there was 5 opportunity predictors that if we begin to work towards, that it can increase upward mobility success. We already talked about segregation, income inequality, we know that. School quality, we know that. Our school system here is not good at all. And, and that was embarrassing when I moved here 3.5 years ago, because Charlotte is known for so many great opportunities and so recognized for many great things going on. But when I heard about the school system, I'm like, no, me and the kids, we're living outside of this.
You don't want to live in the city where you were.
Exactly, and not really that, but the school system. I want my kids to have quality. And then I knew that was an indicator for me when they have, a lot of magnet schools going up around the city,
Yeah.
So.
Just privatizing the school
Exactly. So then you have the social capital, who that can give us, an opportunity.
Right.
And then the family structure. We all know in, the African American communities is always mom. Right. Or dad's in and out, absentee, all those things. And this is, when you pull it up, this is what you're going to see on that report. And then because of the riots, the civil unrest we had in the city leadership sent every community member a letter and just gave us their 3 goals. And we as a police department is safety in the communities as one of the goals. And that's also online as well. And we talked about short term, you pick up the phone, dial 911, we show up, but we just put a Band-Aid on things because we have to jump in the car and go to another. However, long term, we talk about tutoring. Statistically, if you start reading at a child at a young age, their success rate increases.
Right.
All those things there. And then that's that call again we go back into. But that's pretty much it with the transparency workshop in a nutshell. And what I'm trying to do is create a transparency workshop 2 where it's more interactive and we get deeper into, the traffic stops, the one-on-one communications, being able to understand, what we encounter, but also the constitutional laws we held by them. So now when people actually see traffic stops, maybe that perception is not always we're harassing someone. Maybe it's because a violation, some type of law violation, or we're in contact with someone, maybe we're just communicating.
this is, it is, I mean, you could.
We are very well known.
Yeah, if you said a
throughout
relative,
Mecklenburg County,
I guarantee you, if you live in Charlotte, you say, well, what if you said, I mean, healthcare, everybody's, you said a relative, they can tell you where it is off of East Boulevard. And, but it is which is still blows my mind when I think about it. 30-some years later, it is still the place that kids come into. She's so right, you know, kids would walk off the street and come here. And so they know where to come.
Right. We have a lot of youth that come unaccompanied here.
And they know that. They'll just come. I mean, because they've been coming, like you said, they come so often that they know if they leave home and they come and they say the relatives, you know, East Boulevard, then they're at the true relatives facility. So the kids know well.
Yes, and then like I mentioned earlier, all of the schools in Mecklenburg County are safe place sites. So we're really in the schools. We have a great relationship with the police department here. So very well known.
I mean, for me, so I've been a recipient of group home services in my younger years, so you know, I get it and I understand the needs for sure. So it's definitely necessary. Why do you think there aren't more homes like this? Or have you guys looked into expanding and offering additional homes that provide the similar services in other strategic locations?
We would love to do that one day. However, funds have to be right. But I'm not sure why nobody else has really, I mean, there's other shelters in our area that are local, but a lot of them are DSS clients only because they get money from DSS funding and so.
Because there's an annual breakfast also to help fund.
It's next month.
Yeah, next month. Okay. And so, I mean, it is funded, but then it needs more funding and I don't know why, and it's always been a mystery. Like, we know that this is the place to come and this is the place to bring the kids, but sometimes other organizations and stuff get more money than they do. But you're right, the breakfast is a big thing.
That's our only fundraiser that we do every year. Last year was our best one yet. So we're hoping to surpass that this year.
When they come here, which schools can be all over, how do they get back and forth to school?
So if they're in Charlotte, Mecklenburg, we will transport to school. If the parent is able to, we will try to get the parent to drive them to school. If the child is homeless, we use McKinney-Vento. Do you know McKinney-Vento? So McKinney-Vento is a nationwide transportation system that allows children that are in unstable situations to still go to their home school. So through Charlotte Mecklenburg, we can call the McKinney-Vento liaison at the school. We can set something up, and it's usually ready within 72 hours. So a bus will come here. If a child lives in Huntersville, which is 20, 30 minutes away, they can still get to their home school every day, even if they're staying with us.
Okay. But it's through that other organization providing the transportation.
Yes, and then if a child is out of county, we typically keep them here just because it is a lot of transportation. So we'll get their work sent over to us.
And so all of the surrounding county school systems are aware of this location and not a bunch of issues.
We get calls from out of state. We get calls from Raleigh. We get calls from Wilmington. The mountains call us a lot too. So, like I said before, very well known, especially in our county and our state.
Was having that connection and the collaboration and the fact that, you know, having the police department, which is amazing, you know, to know that this exists and it's not incarcerate them because we don't know what else we're going to do with them, but having this as a resource, that's really, really good. So kudos to you guys in the police department because that's big.
Thank you.
Because a lot of times it is a crisis for that moment. People get, you know, you just need somewhere where you can go, get level-headed, cool off, and just really think through it, have someone else there to mediate, and then that opens the door where, okay, maybe I am being unreasonable, or maybe my expectations are not what they should be, or just understanding their parents or relatives, you know, their side of the issue. And you can't do that in the heat of the moment. So having somewhere to go to help facilitate that and give that cool down period is very, very important.
I don't know if I mentioned this earlier, but not every child that comes here stays here. So some people simply come in and they just want mediation. So a parent and child will come in, they had a big blowout, they don't want to stay here, but they may want to talk to one of the staff members and just kind of smooth things over. So we have that available 24/7. We don't say no to anybody. Our doors are always open 24 hours of the day. So
someone lives here on property, or you just rotate?
We rotate. We have 3 shifts. So first shift, there's always 2 staff, sometimes 3, especially in the summer when kids are out of school. Second shift is where all the action happens. Volunteers, the kids are home from school, so there's always 3 staff. And then third shift, we have 1 staff member that stays awake the whole time, checks on the children every 30 minutes or so, and just watches the house, really.
What is a typical day like?
For a child?
Yeah, like here, if I come here, I wake up the next morning, what that look like?
You wake up, you clean your area, you get ready for the day. You'll come down and have breakfast with the other clients. You'll go to school. If it's a summertime, there will be some enrichment activities planned. We also have volunteer groups that come in the summer as well. So they'll, provide a meal, they'll put on activities, they'll sponsor an event in the community. We've had big corporations take us to the Panthers game, or the Charlotte Knights, which is our baseball team. We've also done like Carowinds and Celebration Station. Well, now it's called, I forgot what it's called, but things like that.
Right.
And then once the children are home from school, they'll have a snack. We will do a community meeting where we discuss the agenda for the evening, what's expected of the clients. After that, we'll have the kids go upstairs for a short period of time to kind of rest. They'll come back down, they'll have dinner, and then after that, if there's an activity plan, we'll do that, and then they go back up to go to sleep. And if they have homework, obviously, we'll assist them with that, or we'll set aside some time for that.
Talk about the community group, the community. When y'all
The volunteers?
No, when you had a community group.
Oh, the community meeting.
Community meeting.
Yes, so those are supposed to be done every shift. Obviously not third shift because they're sleeping, but there's always one done second shift. Sometimes during the community meetings, we'll talk about different disaster drills. So this week, they were able to talk to the kids about what we need to do in the event that Florence does come and cause a lot of damage. So we do have pop quizzes like that for the kids. We'll talk about safe place if we have a big group, because a lot of kids come in and they go, what is safe place? What does that mean? So the staff will educate them about that, answer any questions they may have. So it really all depends on what's going on. Sometimes we'll talk about different topics like bullying, accepting of LGBTQ clients that come through here. So it's really whatever the staff wants to discuss. But we always discuss the agenda, the expectations, and things
like hot topic type.
Sure. And those are usually facilitated by our enrichment coordinators. So we have different roles here at the Crisis Center. So we have lead intake specialist, who strictly deal with case management, the phones, the intakes, and then we have the enrichment coordinators that are strictly with the children. So they do all the activities and keep the children entertained.
Like oversight.
Yes. Yes.
What's the biggest need?
Here? You really want to know?
Yeah.
Money.
So when you turn, so now the question is, what would you use the money to do? Like to do what?
This is probably a question for upper management. But because I'm not the boss.
When you tell people you need money, they won't know what it's gonna be spent on.
To open up another shelter like this, something similar.
That's what
to
I
this.
wanted to hear, because 9 people in a city like Mecklenburg County, with all these people, county like Mecklenburg County, that's not cutting it. So that's the first thing that should always be. Look, we only got 9 beds. we have to turn people away. I mean, because
And unfortunately, with the house full of 9 kids, we've had to do that sometimes because we don't have the space. There's been situations where we can make arrangements for maybe a child to sleep on one of these couches for one night, but we're still kind of playing with fire if an auditor was to walk in or something like that. So.
Because then it puts the
whole agency
program
at
right.
risk.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And we don't want to get shut down because there is a need for us in our community.
but it's hard to tell a child to sleep on the street when you got a couch. With, especially in the wintertime, it's storming or snows outside or something. What do you do?
Well, luckily, there are some seasonal shelters in our community. There's the most popular one is called Room in the Inn. So I think Crisis Assistance Ministries, they partner with different churches, right? And they allow families to stay there.
The whole family stay. The children can't stay, but the whole families come. And actually, the churches take their classrooms and move all the furniture out, and then go to a place like, I think it was Cork Furniture or someplace, and bring in the bedding and rent that out for 2 or 3 months. And so, but it's with the family. But you still need places like this, because if you think about, and I always think about it, when I came onto the department, it's about 800 officers. Now we have 2,000, but we still have the relatives. And that's why it's very popular with us, because when we go to the homes and the kids have the meltdowns or when the parents just want them out, it was a no-brainer for us. I mean, we would call and say, if you have a place, and we will bring them here. But like I said, they don't turn away anymore.
We always tell people, please come in, even if it's just a talk, or we try not to discuss how much bed space we have on the phone. We really just want them to come in so we can try to work out any issue they may have. Then we'll discuss availability once we get to that point.
So we've taken them, I have actually brought people here during the beginning of the shift and come back and get them because really they wanted to talk, and they come here and they talk it out and they said, okay, we're good.
An unbiased opinion, right? You're not vested into what's going on. You're not taking the parent's side. You're not taking their side. You're just a listening ear, and it's an objective conversation. And that's where I think a lot of times people get misunderstood, is they just need to get it out. They need to talk, someone that doesn't know them, talk through whatever it is, and then be given true, okay, this is kind of where you could have done something differently, or this is where your parent is coming from, and vice versa. Okay, you were correct, but this is the situation, so now what? Right? Mm-hmm. So it's just having a resource to be able to have those types of conversations is invaluable. I mean, like I said, I've received services like that, so it's one of those things that it makes a difference. And it can keep you from, okay, the alternative, go stay at your friend's house on the couch, you smoke weed, whatever it is that you do. Right. So now you're susceptible to so much more because your friend can't counsel you. And your friend can't give you any ideas about what's the next step or how to overcome. They're just going to side with whatever you said. Right. So, I think it really says a lot to your reputation for kids to know and realize and be willing to, no, I want to go here because I really do want to address this issue versus just talking to my friend about it.
Exactly.
So you got the new sheriff here, sitting right there. What does, if you had to say what the ideal partnership with the new sheriff and the sheriff department would look like if you had a perfect world, what would that look like? We got him here right here.
Well, I don't know if I mentioned this, but we are in the works of having our police department become safe place sites. Did you know about that?
Mm-hmm.
You did? Okay.
There's stations.
Yeah, there's certain stations that that we plan to make safe place sites. So I'm still waiting to hear back from, I think his name is Bill Clark. Yeah. You know him? Yeah. So he's going to be the point person.
Yeah, they looked at a couple places.
Yeah.
For them to be safe side.
So you don't know what
I mean,
Yeah.
I think we already have a good relationship with the police
No, I
department.
ain't talking about the police, but see,
The
I'm talking
sheriff.
about the sheriff
But
because
I think that we'll be doing some of the same things of when we find a crisis with families. We're going to, and I don't know if they do bring them here or they do intervene in crisis or see a crisis where they do that. But I'll find that out.
Okay.
And if that's a part of something that we can do, we can also do.
That would be great.
and even if it's just carrying the message out, because the sheriff has frequent press conferences, he has a way to communicate to the public. Look, we only got one, not many, just one. Why is that? What can we do here in Mecklenburg County? I mean, stuff like that. Because that's, yeah, call to action. I mean, because it's no way in the world. And I told them people over there, when I left you the last time Friday, I told them people over there at the Levine Center that got this state-of-the-art, multi-million-dollar place. Why can't we have a wing over here where we bring these kids in here? I mean, because we only got one place. They don't have nothing for the 10 to 17 group of kids. So
You mean 0 to 6?
no, I'm talking about 10 to 17.
We service 7 to 17.
No, I said the Levine. I'm talking about the Levine Center.
Okay.
The Levine Center, Goodwill.
Yep.
The Levine Center Opportunity. They only got, services provided for people outside of that 10 to 17, which is the most vulnerable area. So, I just feel that something needs to really be done about that.
We're even here, that we exist, and what we're doing for communities, which will be inclusive of their families and their children. And so one way that I think is probably a good viable solution is to do that via a podcast. So you're getting that direct interaction, but bringing quality content by people who have lived it, walked it, breathed it. So there's buy-in and they can get something out of the deal as well, instead of me bringing someone who has no direct experience. They don't understand the challenges that they face that led them there, nor the challenges they're going to face when they get out. I want someone like Cedric and other people that have similar experiences to be able to talk to them and encourage them why they should participate in programming while they're incarcerated, and why they should continue that when they get out, and all the possibilities.
And that is now you done said a mouthful.
Right.
That's great. So can you tell me a little bit more about what you're getting ready to do in Charlotte, or is it you just kind of hanging out and give me a little bit more information.
I'll let Stan take the lead and
Take
then
the lead,
I'll follow up.
So, well, Dawn is 100% committed to working in Charlotte. She has partnered with Save. She has brought me on to the Securus family. Right. So, Securus wants to have a stake in the game right here in Charlotte.
Okay.
Want to pilot programs right here in Charlotte, Mecklenburg County Jail, in this community. So we're going to be doing some specific things regarding technology. We have been on focus grouping, actually, going into different, we went to the relatives we just left there. And we discovered that in Charlotte, Mecklenburg County, where there's almost 2 million people, there's only one youth shelter that has 9 beds.
Only 9 beds?
9 beds.
Correct.
Charlotte, Mecklenburg County, we can do better. So Securus, Save, we partnering with WSOC and Sheriff McFadden and we're gonna do something about it.
That sounds beautiful.
That's right. Yeah, so, one of the things that was very important to me when I started the foundation and even, approached this larger company and said, hey, I want to use your brand name to be affiliated with my, with this nonprofit, is that I only wanted to do it if we were truly going to impact the population we say we're going to help, right? And so one way that we can do that is by providing them with employment as well. So as a foundation, we want to provide good employment to someone who's formerly incarcerated, whose job opportunities are going to be extremely limited, but then also not just employing them to do it, but have them involved where they're giving back, giving them exposure to technology, taking them to a whole nother level. I'm so grateful and proud of the things that we are going to do with Cedric, because, at the end of the day, Cedric's been out 9 months after 22 years. And to accomplish the things he's accomplished on his own is tremendous in and of itself. But to just the possibilities of the things that we can do to replicate the same model and encourage and challenge other organizations. Okay, we'll be the forefront, we'll be the leader, we'll go out there first. But once you see the quality of what we're doing and we have the model established, now you can follow these same footprints, and you don't have to be scared of our brothers and our sisters and our children, because we're competent, we're articulate, and we have the same drive and goals. We just want a fair chance, right? So that's what we're giving.
That's awesome.
It's a beautiful thing.
And final note?
Yeah, the final note is I just really want to thank Securus. We have a Securus Cares program that's going to be rolling out, and society has a misperception when it comes to technology companies. For example, myself, I was in the Federal Bureau of Prisons, and they didn't have the technologies that Securus has brought to the state system. Whereas the last 5 years of my incarceration, I didn't have the privilege of seeing my mother. But had I been at a facility that Securus had the technology in, one of those 1,100 facilities, I would have been able to see my mother. I would have been able to talk to my mother. It's unfair for families that has someone that, my grandmother has dementia, my stepfather has Parkinson, and my mama got to take care of them. She can't travel long distance with them. So to be able to be in the community and to be able to work with someone that really truly cares about families, that's committed to coming up with more technology to better help families. She even told me about, I might get in trouble for saying this, she wants to connect the parents that are in prison with their children, even in the schools, where the parents in prison can use technology and communicate directly with the teachers.
Wow, that's
so
huge.
we got some really big possibilities and opportunities, and this is just a match made in heaven.
That is beautiful.